Good evening. The events of yesterday's cabinet meeting that was held at Statehouse Boardroom, if you follow it, it looks like a movie. And by the way, the questions people have been asking why the president decided to invite the Deputy President William Samoei Ruto, despite the fact that they've been having the fallout. But constitutionally, the Deputy President is a member of the cabinet meeting, which is the apex body that makes decisions. Then the decisions are taken, the ones that needs legislation, are taken through the House leadership. Now that is the leader of majority in the National Assembly. So yesterday, William Ruto attended the cabinet meeting. So I want to give you a blow-by-blow account, because I've been trying to pick these pieces from different publications on how the events went, what exactly happened, and then in this video I will also explain in details why the president decided to invite his deputy, even though deputy is a member of that. Now, the person that invites members to a cabinet is secretary to the cabinet. That post is vacant. And in 2015, the president tried to appoint Monica Juma. And when her name was submitted in the National Assembly, Moses Kuria and the team marshaled the members of parliament, and that name was rejected. Since that name was rejected, William Ruto has never appointed that the holder of that office. So instead, CS Fred Matiangi and the head of public service, Francis Kinyua, were the ones that normally then spearhead, that coordinate the cabinet activities. So what happened yesterday was that before the 2-hour charged cabinet meeting that was bringing together President Uhuru Kenyatta and the cabinet secretaries, there were some other 2 plenary sessions that happened. So permanent secretaries, who are the principal action points in different ministries, were also having their focus group meetings, and this is part of the framework that was laid bare. Then that was a plenary for the permanent secretaries. Then there was also another one of the cabinet secretaries meeting with CS Fred Matiangi before this plenary session. Now, the reason why that was happening is because when William Ruto was telling the country that the president have never held a full cabinet meeting since last year in February, what happened was that when President appointed Matiangi had been coordinating every Tuesday cabinet sessions with the members of the cabinet. So it is not that there is nothing that has been going, but work has been going on, even though they are normally coordinated with Fred Matiangi every Tuesday. So after the 2 plenary sessions, then they were supposed to go and meet now in the boardroom. Now, Deputy President William Ruto arrived in State House after the other plenary sessions had happened, and of course, I think it was communicated, so he had an idea that the sessions were going on, then after that, then there would be the plenary, or maybe one of the cabinet members had told him. So when he disembarked from the car, he went directly to the boardroom. Not even in the VIP waiting lounge, where he would catch up with some other members of the cabinet, and even maybe even the president. They will meet before going to the cabinet. What happens is, before the fallout, they will have a closed-door meeting with the president, so that when they go to the cabinet, president chairs, but he becomes like a subordinate co-chair to the cabinet, because they will work with the president to the cabinet. Now, that did not happen. Secondly, when he came to State House, he came with the personal photographer. So even the personal photographer and I think it was a bit of his media team were not allowed in. And of course, there is the media team from the State House. Now, in the cabinet meeting, the photos that were circulated, intentionally they tried to show how William Ruto had a low profile in that meeting. In fact, I was just trying to peruse through to see if there is any close-up of DP Ruto in that meeting. But there is no close-up, even though he's sitting, the sitting arrangement, he was close to where the president was. He was sitting next to Najib Balala, if you look at now this photo. So that was also there. But something that also caught my attention was this. Why did the State House team intentionally decided to leave the vacant seat there? Was there someone who was invited in that cabinet but skipped? Was there cabinet secretary who skipped the meeting? Or rather, and that seat could also be the seat of Attorney General. So, because Attorney General is also a member of the cabinet, and I want to understand perhaps he did not attend, because I've also been trying to look at the State House photos, and the photo of Attorney General is not there. That could be probability number one. Number two, that seat could also be the seat of Secretary to the Cabinet. The position of Secretary to the Cabinet that I've mentioned to you that was vacant, that is the person that takes minutes in Cabinet Secretaries. Now, I'm just going through the photos, and Attorney General was there. Yes, I've just realized Attorney General was there, and was the person that was sitting next to Betty Maina, and between Betty Maina and Peter Munya. So, it is true that that vacant seat was for the Secretary to the Cabinet. Now, apart from the other issues that were discussed there on the state of the economy, on petroleum stimulus program, that one that the government had mentioned earlier, and was also something on the housing, that some houses were going to be sold in Syokimau. I think they were going to sold to private proprietors. Then part of that proceed would go to slum upgrading. Now, I captured those two. Now, another aspect that happened that came out was a storm and a confrontation between Fred Matiangi, Joe Musheru, and Kariako Tobiko, who attacked Deputy President in that cabinet session, why he was out there defaming the government while he's part of that government. And you understand, I think they were actually saying that Deputy President never responded. In fact, he even didn't contribute in that cabinet, because whatever was being discussed in the boardroom was maybe some of the submissions from the other two plenary sessions that had been done between the permanent secretaries and other members and the other cabinet sectors. So it happened that they were asking him why he's doing that and why he's attacking the government and all that. And it took the intervention of the president to quell the pressure, because remember, this cabinet session was coming at a very critical time when Matiangi and Ruto had really been not seeing at loggerheads, and Joe Musheru was also critical on, and Ruto blamed them for conspiring on what is seen as a vote rigging. Kariako Tobiko started off with Ruto way back when he mentioned that Ruto is just a clerk to the president and him. So these are really aspects that played there. In the question of the secretary to the cabinet emerged. And I can say that State House intentionally wanted to show the country on the vacancy of the state cabinet to the secretary. And the question here is, so the country have known that that seat is vacant, maybe it's not being filled. Was it a communication to provoke the Kenya Kwanza team on that conversation? Because they've been talking about the post of the secretary to the cabinet. So does it show that the president is telling them that that seat is vacant, no one is occupying it, and maybe I'm not going to occupy it. And I'm going to follow, because in the next few days, that conversation is coming back, that the president has not filled that position. By the way, the appointee is a presidential appointee, but he has to be vetted in the National Assembly. So if the National Assembly is bunge kivunjwa, before that is done, then most probably that seat will not be occupied. So in the light of all that, the question that begs is this: why did the president invite Ruto? Why did he have to invite Ruto? I was seeing some other analysis saying that, you know what, that was a trap to William Ruto, so that the president will then take a photo, and that photo will be circulated. So this narrative that he goes out and say that, look here, I am not part of that government, it will now be difficult for him to go out and say that. And I found that very, yeah, that was very cunning, huh? in a bit of understanding. So my reasons are three why the president invited William Samoei Ruto. Before I do that, before I look at them, I want to humbly request you to subscribe to our channel and kindly also click the notification bell. Then I need to remind you about Instalight, and please check out the Instalight. They have amazing packages on solar and power backup systems. Ruto was invited in that cabinet meeting so that Uhuru would show them that how the government is been working outside, even without the 2-year cabinet meeting. So was also this meeting called because Ruto had already come out with a narrative, and they were running out with the narrative that the president should not blame them, and has never called a cabinet meeting. So what was to be seen here, and I think that is why the 2 plenary sessions had to happen, so that during the 2-hour cabinet meeting, they will just be trying to do a recap of what had been discussed. So Uhuru was keen to show the deputy president the model that he's been using to run the government, and even though he was being locked out. That was critical, because the moment Ruto will again continue talking about the fact that the president maybe did not deliver, because according to him is the president did not deliver his pledges because of Raila Odinga, President Uhuru Kenyatta will have at liberty to show him that, look here, you attended the cabinet and you understood how the government is working. So you should not come out here and go and lie. And I want to believe that even that meeting, they might have spoken of, this is what we have been doing. So some of you who have been campaigning saying that we are not doing something, this is what we've been doing. So that is a very critical aspect, and that was part of what the president wanted to show. Number 2, this cabinet meeting is also showing deputy president the state of the economy, where the economy is, what is so far, because and why do you think the president wanted to show the deputy president this? Because they've been portraying the government as incompetent, and that one that has not achieved anything. So with Ruto having where to understand where the national economy is, this will help him, even if he goes down there and now starts coming up with very ridiculous policies or overambitious policies. He will know that, of course, whatever I am saying or whatever I want cannot be achieved. And again, there is just a lot that is happening. By Ruto understanding the state of the economy, this would then take him back to the drawing board. Someone might ask, how is this helping Uhuru Kenyatta? Now, this is not helping Uhuru Kenyatta, but the president will just want the president, William Ruto, to understand the reality, so that when they go out and create narratives about the prices of commodities that is inflation and all that, they understand where the president is sitting. But lastly, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta invited William Ruto in a ploy to humiliate him. First, the attack by Matiangi and Joe Musheru and Kariako Tobiko, that confrontation was expected. And we may not be shocked that the president knew that this was going to happen. Number 2, there was no bit of a catching up, or rather even a handshake between the president and his deputy. In fact, we understand that when the president came from the office, from his office to attend the boardroom. If you look at this photo, Ruto was not part of this. In fact, by this time, Ruto was already in the boardroom. So there is a bit of the president also just wanted to show his deputy that even though there has been that public fallout, I am not with you even at personal level. So I know members of the cabinet, one or two sometime in the fullness of time, when one of them will come to do an interview on their last cabinet meeting, because I want to believe this might be their last cabinet meeting, they will express on how the president had decided that William Ruto was his greatest enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my analysis on Ruto storming out of the Statehouse Boardroom meeting.